and welcome to Your Coaching Journey, a podcast for doctors about coaching. Whether you're a coaching doctor, a doctor who is learning to coach, or a doctor who would like to build coaching into your professional life, then this is the podcast for you. Hello, I'm Helen Leathers, and with me today is my co-host and business partner, Tom Dillon. Hi Tom, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Helen. How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you. I'm looking forward to discussing today's question around something that seems to be becoming a tricky topic. The question we're posing today is it ever okay to mentor someone during a coaching session? And I think to begin with, we probably need to explore the difference between coaching and mentoring. So Tom, I know you have some thoughts on this.
I do. My thoughts are, well, let's explore those differences. I think it's probably worth looking at the NHS Leadership Academy's definitions. That's a good place to start. So let me just tell you what they are. So on their website, it says that coaching is a way of using questioning and inquiry to help individuals unlock their full potential to achieve personal and professional success.
Sounds
a
all
fair
right.
definition of coaching. And then mentoring develops individuals through sharing of knowledge, skills and experience. It's often led by an experienced and skilled professional mentor and can lead to enhanced innovation and performance within organisations. Now, I think they're fine. I don't think they're great definitions, but they're fine. They're something to work with and give us a flavour of the difference between the two. With mentors offering that wisdom and experience, it's very much they've been there, they've done it, they've got the t-shirt. They tend to be more senior within an organisation, so they'll feel that they know the landscape, they'll know the politics of a particular organisation, and they'll be using that skill and experience to have their mentoring sessions with their mentee. So I think if we're coaching, then we're not necessarily immersed in the organisation. We might be coming in from the outside in order to coach, and we are using our skill and experience as a coach to have a coaching conversation where we draw the answers out of the person in front of us. So I think those are the two main differences.
And so some of the differences are highlighted in those definitions, but what are the more detailed distinctions between the two?
Well, I think they do share a lot of similarities, but I think there are important distinctions. So the purpose of coaching, primary purpose, is to help individuals with their desired objectives, support them in their personal and professional development, assist them in overcoming challenges, maybe explore their values, their strengths, their personality, and engage in that internal reflection that brings about new thinking about the situation they're in. So we might well be focusing on working towards a future objective. That's what we're doing in the coaching session. Mentoring is primarily concerned with the long-term career development or progression of the mentee. So to say, the mentor is likely to be someone more experienced, someone more senior in the organisation. And quite often, I think mentees pick a mentor thinking, well, they'll help me with my career. They'll open some doors for me. They'll help me along the way, and quite often I think that's the selection. And I've heard mentors described as sponsors before, or advocates, and I think there is that element to it as well. But generally, as a mentee, you're going to find someone who you think can offer you some wisdom, some experience, some knowledge that they have that you don't have, and they're sharing that. So I think that's generally the relationship with a mentor. So that's in terms of the purpose, that's the difference between the two. I think the focus for coaching is very much on specific desired outcomes. So the coachee will tend to come with a topic for conversation, and that will be worked through. It could be anything. It could be limiting beliefs. It could be clarifying the change they want to see. We might then look at the options that they have, and then we might look at the steps that they take to move themselves forward. So all of that's coming from the coachee, but we're helping them with something specific. With mentoring, as I say, it's more on that overall development of them and their career. So it might not be that they're coming with any problems at all. It might just be, how do I get to there, and who do I need to speak to move my career on, or who do I need to connect to? And it might be that you have some specific problems within a situation, but you are going to be expecting the mentor to give you advice and to help you. I think that is the expectation on the part of the mentee if they've signed up for mentoring.
Okay. So I often think of teaching as this is how you do it, mentoring as this is how I did it, and coaching as how could you do it? as a bit of a summary.
Yes, and obviously within that, the mentor is definitely speaking from experience.
Yeah.
And I think most mentors want to share their experience. I think you'd struggle to stop them telling you what they think.
Yeah.
So when we talk about coaching in that space where we leave plenty of room for the coachee to come up with their own ideas, so they're doing their thinking in the space, I think a mentor is probably going to jump in and give advice.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a big difference between the two. And that's perfectly valid for a mentor to do that, because that's the relationship you've signed up to.
Yeah.
Now, if you are looking for a mentor, you're going to want them to give you advice. That's the expectation. And that's a perfectly valid relationship.
Absolutely. So why do you think it is that people get confused between coaching and mentoring?
I think they tend to get paired together. So my very first coaching course that I did was called Coaching and Mentoring. That was the name of the course. We didn't do any mentoring training at all on that course. It was all coaching skills. Because actually, what do you need to know in order to mentor? You just need to know stuff. You need to be able to give people advice and give them the benefit of your wisdom. Anyone can do that. If you have some knowledge and some experience, anyone can be a mentor.
And people love to do that.
They love to do that.
Sometimes people love to do that when they don't have any experience, if we're honest.
Yeah, well, we can all have opinions, can't we?
Yes.
So I think that's why the confusion arises initially, because they are lumped together as two talking interventions that are similar. But I think it's an unhelpful lumping together of the two things. And I often will see a mentoring advertising. We've certainly had people on our course that have been given some mentoring training, but it's been coaching training. They've been told, well, we're going to train you to be a mentor, but actually we're going to teach you some coaching skills. Now, I think it's great. I think all mentors should learn some coaching skills, but to be told that they're mentoring skills, I think is missing the mark a little bit. Because if you sit in a mentoring session trying to draw the answers out of the person in front of you, that's not what they've signed up for. They've come because you know stuff and they want you to give them the answer.
And if you mentor in a coaching session, you're missing such a great opportunity.
Yes, and it's not what the coachee is signed for. And obviously we have to be clear in our contracting around what coaching is and what mentoring is. But when I contract with people, I'm very much telling them that I'm not going to be giving them advice. That's not. And it might be that I know nothing about their situation. I think on previous podcasts I've said I could quite comfortably coach Barack Obama. I know nothing about his world, but I could have a really good coaching conversation with him where I can sit and hold that space and allow him to do some new thinking. I couldn't be a mentor to Barack Obama. So I think it's that distinction that we as coaches are not the experts in their world or in their environment. We can explore it with them and allow them to make better sense of it, but we can't tell them from the benefit of our experience because we don't have that experience.
Okay.
So I think it's really important when you are contracting to become a mentor that you understand what your role is. And if someone is offering you a mentoring role but telling you you have to coach in that space, then I'd be querying that and saying, well, but what are you telling the mentees? Because if I'm training to be a coach in order to act as a mentor, and then mentees turn up thinking they're getting the benefit of my wisdom and experience, and I'm sitting there asking them questions and leaving space, they might get a little bit annoyed about that. So I think it's just about making sure that we understand what the offering is and what as a mentor you will be doing in that space.
Okay, so now we've established what the difference is between the two ways of working and why there's some confusion or lack of clarity there. Let me ask you this. Is it ever okay to mentor during a coaching session?
No.
Good.
So, to expand on your answer, on your question.
My closed question.
Your closed question. I think we have to be clear about our intention in the coaching room, and our intention is to offer that space to allow the person in front of us to come up with some new thinking. And if they have problems in their work environment that they're not sure how to handle, there will be other routes for them to get to the right answer. So it might be that if you've got a manager who's quite inexperienced, they might need to talk to their manager to get some advice from them. It might be that they need to talk to HR to get some input from them if they've got difficulties in their role. So I think we can explore it with the coachee and find out what's going on for them and ask them what they think are the right answers and what resources they have available to them to help them with the situation. And that might include HR, it might include their manager. But we're going to explore it with them rather than us give advice. So I think it goes back to that contracting. So I contract with all my coachees that I will not be giving them advice. And on the whole, that's what happens.
So it sounds like it's all about contracting to start with. It also sounds like it might be okay to coach in a mentoring session, but perhaps less so the other way round. And when you are looking to become involved with either coaching or mentoring in your organisation, it's not just about contracting with the individual, but it's about contracting with that organisation if they are giving you conflicting information. Come and be a mentor, we want you to coach.
Yes.
Come and be a coach, we want you to mentor. It's about getting that clarity right from the outset.
Yeah, I think they fall into these problems fall into two different camps. So I think, I'm a great advocate of coaching skills. I think, all managers should learn some coaching skills. All doctors should learn some coaching skills. So I think I'm a real advocate of that. But I think there's a danger that if you are a manager using some coaching skills, you're going to struggle to stay in that coaching space. And it may be that you just have to tell someone what to do because you're their manager. So you've got that dual role, and there's some grey space there, isn't there? So there may be times when you use coaching skills, but you're also going to have to be directive. And you're also going to give advice at times. So there's that mix within that role. I think the problem with coaching and mentoring and that mix is just being clear around the boundaries of mentoring and coaching. And I think quite often that comes down to whoever's designed the coaching or mentoring program perhaps not understanding the two themselves, not having a clear distinction between the two. So if we have that situation where someone is saying, we want you to be a mentor, but we really want you to coach in that space, then maybe just going back to the drawing board again, what are we trying to achieve here? What are we really trying to offer people? Is it mentoring or is it coaching? And it might be that we have to kind of tear it all up and start again, just to be clear about what's going on. Because I think it is really unhelpful for a mentee to be offered mentoring, but then find themselves in a coaching space.
And equally, we don't want someone to use the idea of, I'm mentoring during a coaching session just as an excuse to go into directive mode and tell someone what they think they should do.
Yeah, and I've had coaches that I've come across before that have been trained elsewhere that have then said, well, I'm actually a coach mentor, and I have that dual role, so quite often in my coaching I will be giving advice. Okay, and if you're labelling yourself as a coach mentor, maybe that's okay, but it's difficult to pick and choose what you're going to be. I think having some clear contracting with the person that you're working with is really helpful.
Because actually, as much as they're conflated, they are very different.
Yes, well, they are. Yeah,
they're at absolute opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, as we've pointed out earlier, there are real distinctions between the two that people just need to separate it out in your head and know what your role is. And that's not to diminish the role of mentors. They provide a really useful function, and there's a lot of good mentors out of that. And some of those mentors will be weaving some coaching skills into their mentoring. But it's a distinct role that is different to coaching.
Excellent. So I think the top line answer to is it ever okay to mentor during a coaching session is no. But hopefully this episode has given people lots of thinking around perhaps their individual situations they've found themselves in.
Hopefully we're all in favour of doing some new thinking. So if you are a mentor who has been told we don't want you to mentor, we want you to coach, just maybe clarify that with whoever's asking you to do that. And if you're a coach who thinks that giving advice during your session is appropriate, then again, just maybe go back and think about that some more and work out what it is, what your role is, what's your intention in the coaching room.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, I've really enjoyed that conversation. Thank you. Good food for thought for all of us, I think.
Absolutely.
Next time on the podcast, we will be exploring the cognitive behavioural approach to coaching, which is a very rich area. We could spend 10 episodes exploring that, but we've just got one coming up, and that's our next one. So thank you very much for that this morning, Helen.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Bye for now.
See you soon.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.